none of this is about us. Like,
That's
if our
good.
mission is really to help other people, you can't go into it with that offense. And
That's
like,
so good.
Yeah. And so I feel like it's easier when you can step back and say, my career isn't about me and my preferences. It's about other people. And so then all of that kind of works itself out. You go into it more humble, less arrogant if it's not about you.
Definitely.
Welcome to the Indie Young Professionals podcast, where we help 18 to 29-year-olds be great adults. We're going to interview leaders throughout the city of Indianapolis and talk to them about some of their successes and failures so that you can learn from them as you walk along this journey of life.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Indie Young Professional podcast. This week's episode with two superheroes of the city of Indianapolis. Carly Rush.
Hello.
Say hello to your people.
So glad to be here.
All the people listening.
Oh, yeah.
And Krystal Brown.
Hello.
Hello. Krystal and Carly have been friends of mine for varying lengths of time. Krystal, how long have we known each other? 3.5 years? 3.5 years. Carly.
17 years.
17 years? Wow. You remember when we met?
Is
that how long you know my parents?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Carly used to cut my hair when I had more hair.
But it was actually down to your shoulders.
It was actually pretty much down to my shoulders. Krystal and Carly are amazing people, friends of mine, and co-founders, co-CEOs, co-presidents of Radiate 60 Hair Collective. Okay, not company. Collective.
No. Yep.
Amazing. Tell us a little bit about that, Krystal. Where's it at?
It is in Fishers off 116th and Lantern in the Edge building, first floor.
That's is that what downtown Fishers is? Like that whole area right there?
Kind of the start of it.
I'm new to Fishers.
Yeah, so like Lantern down.
Yep.
Is all the downtown stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So everybody knows it's the best salon in town.
It really
is.
It's the best.
In all of Indy.
Potentially in all over the world.
Basically.
It is awesome. But honestly, when I go in there to say hey to you guys, everybody else that's in there, it just puts a smile on my face. You're like, this place is sweet. Feels good to be there.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. So fun. So we are excited to talk with you two. You are veterans of life, right? You guys got all figured out?
All figured out.
Got everything figured out?
Yes.
From day one.
Yes, exactly. So just tell us a little bit. Maybe we'll start with you, Carly. Where'd you grow up?
I'm from Upland, Indiana.
Upland, Indiana.
We're Taylor
How
University.
How many people live in Upland, Indiana?
I have no idea.
Not a lot, right?
I really don't know. Because of Taylor University, it's a lot more. But we have one.
You say that like Taylor's big.
I know, it's not.
Which means Upland's real small.
Exactly. But we do have one blinking light until you get to 69. So, yeah.
And one famous ice cream place. Right?
Oh, yeah. Ivanhoe's.
Did you work there or did Chris work there, right?
Well, Chris was working there and I saw him and I decided to work there too.
Yes. Okay. So Chris is your husband.
At 16. Yes.
Chris, and how old was he when you saw him?
16.
And it was like love at first sight for you,
Oh, yeah.
huh?
I went home and told my mom that I was going to marry this guy. And she's like, it better not be that guy with pink hair and piercings because you're not meeting him.
And it was.
And it totally was.
Yes. I love it. So mom was not into it at 16, huh?
No.
Wow. Was that like one of those families you're not even supposed to be dating, let alone thinking about who you're marrying? Or was it not that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I don't know, but it knows. Siblings?
One brother.
Yep.
He's an amazing brother.
Yes.
Yeah, Stephen Davenport.
Stephen Davenport.
He's
also
an amazing man.
A world-renowned hairstylist.
Yeah, he is incredible.
So fun.
Yeah.
Them in their
Blessing.
hair,
I know. Talented family.
Talented family. I love it. Carly or Krystal, I'm looking at you now.
Common confusion.
We might look a little like.
Yes, exactly. Yes, seriously. And you do everything together. You're always in the same place at the same time.
Basically. My kid, Ellie, actually thinks that James is her sister. Like it's like along the way, she's like, James is my sister, right? Yeah.
Isn't that how this sibling thing works? Just the people you spend the most time with?
Yeah.
Basically. All right, so where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Rockville, which is also very tiny town.
Indiana?
It isn't. So Rockville Road actually takes you to a Rockville, Indiana.
Wow.
The Covered Bridge Festival, pretty famous.
Super famous.
Yeah. I mean, it actually is a really big deal.
I'm new to India. I've only been here 30 years. So,
but it's a tiny town, very country, not like abnormal to see Amish people just kind of trotting down the road.
Amish in Rockville?
Oh, yeah. Well, the Covered Bridge are built by Amish people.
So where are we talking about? From Indianapolis, Rockville is what direction?
West. Yeah. So you go around the west side and then Avon. So you go past Avon.
Okay. Like how far out of 465? Like how many miles are we talking?
Far. I mean,
far.
I mean,
many miles.
Many miles. It would take a long time to walk there.
Tens, if not dozens of miles.
I don't know. I just want to get there.
Yes. Okay, so when did you move to the great metropolis of Indianapolis?
Oh gosh, I've been here for 7 years, I think.
You've only lived in Indy for 7 years?
8, 9.
I guess
maybe a little.
I guess that's what we're here to talk
seven and a half. Yeah, 7.5 years, because Ellie was 1.
Okay, yeah.
When we moved up here.
Gotcha. Okay, so we talked about your salon that y'all started 3 years ago. We were just talking about this before. I remember being there the night before the grand opening, and we were talking about how long has it been, and we remembered, it was election night 2016.
Yep.
And not only was it crazy trying to get the salon ready, and y'all sent me on an errand to get your washer and
dryer
for towels and stuff. Get that working to the hardware store, and I was gone for like an hour, came back, bought the wrong thing, and never got your washer going. So,
but we had Qdoba. I do remember that. We
had a lot of
all was well.
Yeah, so you helped me out, and I didn't help you, so sorry about that. But we were talking about how like we were checking our phones as the night's going on, like, wow, this is happening.
Yeah. Yes.
Donald Trump is becoming our president as we speak.
Yes.
Who could ever
forget that? It was a big night.
Who could ever forget such a thing? Amazing. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the journey to starting Radiate 60, because I know it was a long journey. Both of you separately, personally, just in even a professional sense, and then both of you professionally together, and how it all came together. So just a little bit, maybe Carly, we'll start with you. Like, how long you been doing hair? How'd you get into it?
This year I have been doing hair I started in school 19 years ago. And so I've been in the actual field like for 18 to 19 years.
So how old were you when you went to hair school?
So I graduated midterm from high school, and so in January I was done with high school, opposed to doing the full year of my senior year. And I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't have my grades. I didn't, but I knew that I was excited about something, but I didn't know what until my aunt said, why don't you go to hair school? And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was like actually a profession, like a thing you could support yourself with. And I was really creative, so I wanted to do something with my hands. But so I started at a salon here in Indy, and right after Chris and I got married at 20. And then I went from 2 different salons and then decided to start my own. So 12 years ago, in January, I started Make Fresh, which was birthed from just a renewal of the mind. So then by the time that Radiate 60 came around, that was our fourth location for Make Fresh. And then as Fisher's was expanding, they tore down our salon and we had to rebuild. And then during that time, we just knew that we needed to go big or go home, because that's what all Fisher's really had to offer. And I was like, I can't do this alone, and I don't want to anymore. So that was when, it was all God. Like Krystal and I would start running into each other.
Random places.
Random, like Target, and then we would send each other.
How did you meet? Did you know each other because of Hair World stuff?
That's true, yeah.
I'd say we
knew of each other.
I went to school with Stefan, so I knew of her because of Stefan.
Got it.
And we went to our last church. We went to there together. So we would see each other, but we never had relationship.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we started Antioch stuff, the meetings, that I feel like her and I actually started to get to know each other.
But we still didn't really talk. Like we just kind of still were like, hi, like I kind of know you know.
So one time I put together a kickball party at my house, and nobody showed up except the Freshes. And so that's actually where the conversation started, because we didn't really know them. And I remember telling Josh, I was like, this random family's coming over. We don't really know them, but they said yes. So
that's awesome.
And that's where I think our first conversations really started happening.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are 19 years in to hair, you're saying. Started the salon 3 years ago. Okay, so you're 15, 16 years in when you start becoming better friends with Krystal. So what's kind of your professional road at that point? You know, looking back 4 years ago, where were you at? How long had you been in school or out of school, or how's all that go?
So I have not been doing hair as long as her. So I actually never wanted to do hair. This was never on my grid. I went to school for management, marketing, journalism, criminology. Thought I was going to be a CPA, or not CPA, no, CNA at one point.
Nice. Okay, so you have degrees in all of those things, or you like took classes in all of them?
I started and I stopped, and I started and I stopped. So I had no grid for hair, and I was actually living in Georgia.
Did you graduate college?
No.
Okay.
No. Absolutely not. So I was living in Georgia, and just down there, you know, I was actually married before I had Ellie. I was 21, and just
21 when you got married the first time?
I was 19-ish when I got married, 21 by the time I had Ellie.
Okay.
It was just like, I need something to do. And I was at this church, and this lady came up to me, or her daughter, and she was like, hey, do you do makeup? And I must have looked really great that day.
Maybe.
And she's like, and I told her, I was like, no, I don't do that. She said, well, my mom is a photographer, and she wants you to learn how to do makeup for her. And I'm like, random.
Wow.
So I watched all these YouTube videos on how to do makeup because I didn't know what I was doing. So I worked for her for a while, and she kind of taught me that business. And so then when I moved, she was the one that said, you need to go to hair school. So that's when I moved back up here to Indy.
Okay.
But I didn't listen. So, because I like to take the long route of things. Right. So I actually had just a bunch of random jobs of bartending and working at a restaurant. And then that's when I thought I should be a CNA, because why not?
Right.
And then it was just like through just different encounters with people, it kept reminding me of hair school. And so logistically, it wouldn't have made sense to take a year off my life, have a new child, and all of these jobs that I had. But, you know, the Lord said, this is what you're going to do. And so I went and applied. And so I did hair school. And then I worked at a couple of random salons, and then I landed a really good job at a luxury salon in Broad Ripple. And I was there for about 3 years. Okay. And was like crazy successful, was doing really well, but there was something missing. I just wasn't like, it wasn't a joyful place for me. And then it was in that time that I felt God saying like, hey, a shift is about to happen, but not yet. And then that's when I ran into Carly.
Nice.
And so on my way to Qdoba, oddly enough, I heard God say, hey, it's time to quit your job. And I had that conversation with Josh, and I was like, hey, I feel like this is something I'm supposed to do. And I was about to hit 6 figures where I was making like nothing before. And he's like, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, yeah. Like, why not? And so that was 3.5 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about in all of that, because one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is because, you know, when you look at kind of whatever the young professional years, whatever that even really means, if we say 18 to 29, you know, at 18, it's like you finish high school and then you kind of like go to college, or you don't, or you do and then you stop, or and it's like, and that just starts the roller coaster of transitions for the next like 12 years of your life. Not that life ever stops changing, but it's like, you know, like you said, you study something in college and then 4 different things. You have 12 different roommates. You have, you know, it's like everything's changing all the time. You have relationships, and then that keeps going, or it doesn't, or you have kids or you don't, or you move to different cities. You know, there's so much going on. So you guys just gave an overview and basically hit on all of that stuff. Like you guys have, y'all have gone through all of that many times over. So I don't even know where to start, but maybe just kind of a real broad question is like, when you look back, you know, from today till, let's say, you know, those 6, 8, 10, 12 years ago kind of thing, when this professional road kind of started, 18, 19, 20 till today, and all the different things you've gone through, like what have you learned about what's important about how to navigate transition? Because I think it's just fair to say, probably, I'm assuming that nothing has gone the way you thought it would go in life. And everything has changed at least a handful of times. So how have you handled that? Has that always been like, oh, smooth, this is great? You know, Krystal, you're like, oh, I'm a Christian who drives in the car, and God just tells me when everything's going to change, and it's great. I'm sure that's how it went down, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
what's some stuff you've learned about that? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But what's some stuff you've learned about transition when things stop going the way you thought they were going to go?
Yeah. For me, It wasn't until I became a Christian that I understood even like that God wanted me to talk to him. So like I would just end up just praying, and then a lot of people would just be encouragements to me. So it was my community a lot of times that people that would just believe in me too, to be able to do the next step. Like, and I would just always be feeling like that, just that intense gut feeling of like, something's not right here, but like, I want to see change. And so I'm just going to go for it and just have to be really bold all the time, with everything in life.
That's great. Being bold is awesome, but it's also scary.
Yeah. It's really scary.
Do you feel like you're the personality that tend towards boldness, or have you really had to learn that?
I kind of just go for everything and then figure it out on the way. Because if I didn't, I think that I wouldn't do anything. Yeah. So stepping out has always been something that like my husband would always be like, I don't think this is the right time. I'll be like, no, like we just got to do it. Yeah. And
because you two are really different.
We're very different. Yeah. Which is cool and hard all at the same time. Chris is very much like, if I have an idea, he was like, let's just wait a couple years or but no, I think and then he finally has gotten to the point where he sees the outcome of what all these things have happened, of just stepping out in faith, and now we are able to say like, okay, like if we do have a dream, like let's go for it, and like let's really go for it and talk about this, and just see what happens. And it's okay if it's not perfect, but at least we tried. And I think that's something that if we just sat back and didn't go for it, we wouldn't meet certain people and we wouldn't experience life, and be able to just encourage others either, you know? So there's a lot of that.
I think that's a big point of it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
I think that is a huge thing that people are so afraid of, is it has to be so perfectly planned out in order for it to work. It's like some of the best ideas people stumble upon and stumble through. I mean, I got it wrong a million times before I feel like I landed where I really wanted to be, and we're still messing up and figuring it out as we go.
Right.
Yeah. Yep, totally.
Yeah, that's so good. There's two different things you guys are talking about. One of them is you were talking about you and Chris, and even knowing you guys, and the differences you have on your, like, you get an idea and it's like, let's just do it now. And Chris is like, maybe let's wait a few years. And usually I know that in my life, whether it's with my wife or just with people that I'm doing things with, we're usually not all the same, like in every way. Yeah. Specifically, it seems like whenever a team comes together, whether that's just friends or it's a professional team, not meaning like a professional sports team, but a team in the professional arena, there's just always different personalities, especially when it comes to pace and timing and stuff, and like risk aversion or whatever. Yeah. So maybe like as you both, because actually that's kind of true of you and Josh, right? Yeah, in the same way, you kind of lean towards the risk, he leans towards the let's think about it.
Absolutely.
So that's really interesting. So y'all are the same in your marriages, but then you two are leading this thing together, both more on the like, let's go for it type of thing. And so the question I'm getting at is, what have you learned along the way in how you navigate relationships and navigate professional decisions? Like the difference, I don't know if the word's balance or difference or whatever, but between like good process that is wise and versus being paralyzed by fear.
Yeah.
Because I would say, I'll say this for me. I've usually learned that I even hesitate to say the right decision, but the decision I end up making is usually somewhere in between what I prefer and what my teammate prefers. Yeah. It's usually not one or the other. It's usually somewhere in between. What have you learned about faith, wise process versus we're just paralyzed by not wanting to do anything?
Are you talking about for Krystal and I, or just in
anything? Just because I think it's valuable on both, like in relation. That's two huge tension points. Yep.
Well, so
whether it's relationship or professional. Yeah.
So Chris and I we're going on 19 years of marriage right now, and it's literally taken. Still at 19 years, I'm like still needing to pull back a lot of times my ideas, or not even my ideas, but just like being so like got to do this now. And if we don't, then we're just missing something. Instead, really trying to be respectful to my husband as well, and respect that there is some reservations and it's okay that there are. Yeah. And I'm learning that too, like, because
I've learned that not all people who want to go slow are babies.
No.
And I'm like, it's so humiliating that I even have to say that. I mean, how arrogant of me. But it's like, oh, wow, that's actually a really smart thing to say.
Yeah.
I'm really annoyed, but that's really smart.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But you need people like that, because I think with people like us that are just all of these ideas going all the time, like, it's not always logistically like sound. And so you need someone who is like gifted in the logistics to say, like, let's really think about this.
Right.
And then it gives us like, you know, sometimes we'll be like, it doesn't matter, let's keep going for it. Yeah. Or like, okay, on to the next idea.
Well, I think when we met with Steve and Terry that one time to go over just business ideas and everything, one of my favorite things that they had said was that Steve is always giving ideas, and Terry has learned how to, like, there's certain ones that she'll run with, but just let him at least talk and like spew out those ideas, and never that it's wrong, but it's more just like, it will be a serious look when we both feel too. Is that what they said?
Well, I think too, even with Carly and I's relationships, like, we both are very similar in running with these ideas and always have something going, but I think that we both balance each other out in the question area, where like, where she's got her, I feel like she has more of the like, let's do it right this moment, where I have the ideas, but then I have a little bit more of the that kind of reservation. But I feel like even in our business, it's like the perfect balance between those two.
That's so good. That's so good. I think that what you were hitting on there, Carly, for a second, it was good, that I'm trying to learn as I'm growing up and maturing is, I think in my immaturity, when I was passionate about an idea that I was like, this is an awesome idea, any pushback on that was like an offense to the mission. And like,
and it still can be, you know, even
it's like, you don't care about me, you don't think it's a good idea, and you don't value these amazing things I'm going for. You know, I'm like, my insides. But I think I'm learning that it's just interesting. I think one of the biggest areas of maturity over the last 10 years of my life that I have learned, and I think in learning it, I'm realizing I have so much more to learn, because I finally learned the lesson how much I need to learn from other people. Which
so good.
I just have a thick head, I guess. But that value of learning from other people, and part of it starts with learning who I am. And I think even right now in this season of my life, I've been thinking a lot about how to get secure in what do I bring to the table. So how do I be confident in bringing that, and be humble in knowing it's part of the puzzle. So I've got to bring what I bring, but I'm not the whole picture. And I'm learning how hard that can be, because I'll either be insecure or arrogant, or it's easy to be insecure or it's easy to be arrogant, and finding that confident humility and contributing is hard. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think is when you have to realize, well, for both of us, none of this is about us. Like, if our mission is really to help other people, you can't go into it with that offense. And
that's so good.
Yeah. And so I feel like it's easier when you can step back and say, you know, my career isn't about me and my preferences. It's about other people. And so then all of that kind of works itself out. You go into it more humble, less arrogant, if it's not about you.
Definitely.
Yeah, agree. I think it's just always exciting. I know that we both get really excited just watching the stylists that we work with come through the door, and like, just like, this is a new day, and we get to encourage each other, and we get to watch each other be talented, and so that, I think that keeps us going so many days, because we still have just, life is happening all around us, and when we get to our workplace, it's like we have to kind of get out of, I mean, we're human, but like we really have to get out of ourselves to then encourage people we work with too.
Well, and realizing, so in our field, education is huge. And I think that when you have that understanding that you are not the best and you haven't arrived yet, it's those people that are constantly taking education to grow and get better. And I think her and I, like, we have been doing this for a while and we're both really good, but we have accepted we're not the best at this. So we don't have that arrogance, but like, how can we help other people be the best at their job?
Yeah. And we can provide that place for them to come in and be themselves.
Yeah, that's so good. We were talking about that with Jack Frisbee, and talking about like the value of, what am I trying to say? The importance of learning how to be a learner.
Yeah.
And I think that I know that for me and so many people, so many friends I've walked with, or people now that are a few years younger than me, it's so easy. I think in my 20s, especially my early 20s, I felt the pressure that I had to like have everything together, know where my life was headed, and have that pretty darn under control by the age of 24, or I was like behind.
Yeah.
Because you look around and you just think everybody else has it figured out, but you know your insides, and you're like, well, I'm a mess. I must be behind here.
Yeah.
But now when I look back, I realize the people who are, even when I reflect back to those years, and the people who weren't freaking out about some things I was freaking out about, they were more at peace, or they had more value for learning than like being or arriving, as you said.
Yeah.
What have you noticed about that?
Well, I think for me, to tell a 17 or 18-year-old, like, hey, you have to figure out your life and what you want to be and pay all this money to go to college, to me is just bizarre. So I'm like, at 18, my only concern was like partying and hanging out with my friends. Like, I didn't have any grid for what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Right.
Then I threw thousands of dollars at a college. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. But I've learned that, so like when I very first started out in the hair industry, you have to go through an assisting program where you don't make a lot of money. You're working crazy, ridiculous hours, and it's like the grunt work that nobody wants to do. But that was my biggest growing season, and I feel like that gets lost because people want instant like success or whatever success is, and they want, you know, to make 6 figures right out the gate, and it's like, no, there is a long process of grunt work, working for no money at all, that has to take place first in order for growth to happen.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah. What about you, Carly? What have you learned about learning?
About learning.
Yeah.
It kind of takes my mind to just as I grew up, like not fitting the mold of everyone else. There was always something different in like the way I learned or whatever it was. And if I was to take a path that was exactly the same as my friend, say in high school, well, that wouldn't have worked for me. It would have worked for her, but it wouldn't work for me. And, learning how to somehow be comfortable in your own skin of what you've been gifted with. And so that's, I think, and it's something I've carried, I think, my whole life, of just realizing like that it's okay to be different. It's okay to not do what everyone else is doing, and really, you know, find the people to hang around that will build your confidence as well. But yeah, same at 18, 19 and 20. I mean, let's just say like I had my last drink at 21. So, but during that time I was so confused about who I was, and I was filling my life with so many things that were not good. And I mean, so just in those 3 years, living a lot of life, but then, so yeah, I mean,
So what you look back on, you talk about learning how to get comfortable in your own skin, and I think that's an ongoing lesson. And
it's
all
still
of that
at 38.
Is there, you know, as you look back over the last however many years, is there any moment that kind of jumps to your mind where you realize, whether it looked on the outside like a big crossroads moment or not, internally it was a crossroads moment of like, I'm actually okay with who I am. Like, is there anything that sticks out, either for either one of you?
Yeah.
I mean, mine happened at my last job, where I realized it was a very like luxurious, fancy place where there was a lot of like value on how much money you had and all of that. And I realized I'm never going to be that. I never want to be that. And I the first year or so working there, I was changing my dialogue to try and fit that.
Right.
And then I realized that's not me. That's not who I am or who I ever want to be. And I started acting more of like myself in that, and, you know, definitely got rejected. But realizing there's more joy in that, of being yourself and being comfortable with that, and saying like, it's okay if I have to step back from people that make me feel less than. I don't have to be someone that I'm not.
Yeah. That's so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Because you're giving up a lot and you're kind of walking back into the unknown of like, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Right. Like there's almost something less scary about just trying to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
Because like at least you sort of fit, even though you know you don't fit.
Yeah.
You sort of
Pretend
look
like you do.
you fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exhausting.
Yeah.
Man.
It is. Yeah.
Anything stick out in your mind? Oh, we got 28 seconds left on this episode. How about we cut it off here?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
We cut it off here. So we are going to continue this conversation with Krystal and Carly. What I'm excited about in our next episode is we're going to be talking about, you guys talked about learning how to fail, which I think is a huge lesson. And then you guys have talked about the change of your definition in success. And I want to talk about what have you learned about, or how has that changed over the years? What did you used to think success was? What is it now? How has that changed? How have you learned that? I think that's a really valuable thing. So there's the timer right there. So thank you guys so much for listening. Please tune in next week. Thanks, Krystal and Carly. We'll pick this up again.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Indie Young Professionals podcast. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on YouTube as well as the bell so that you'll be alerted when we release new episodes. You can also follow us on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want to know more about us and about the people that we're interviewing, follow us on Instagram @Indie Young Professionals. Thanks. Have a great day.